I'm Tony Altieri, and that is Riku Mukherjee. And Rick, we had a good week, man. We had a person that both you and I know that's part of the Discord, part of the Nickel City Mafia family, will you, actually took down GPP, and you, my friend, took second in that same tournament.
Man, I was talking shit to him too because
I
he
know.
had a 5 of 6, and I had a 6 of 6, and he had Tom Kim. I had Patrick Cantlay. That was pretty much the difference there. He didn't play any Cantlay, and on Friday after I had 6 of 6, he was a few points ahead of me. I think I was in fourth and he was in third, and I was like, I'll see you in my rearview mirror. We were talking shit to each other in our Discord, and he got the best of me. I can't believe he beat me with a 5 of 6. That was crazy.
Yeah, well, shout out Dave Woods, my boy. I've known Dave for, 15 years now. But shout out to him for the big win on DraftKings. Shout out to you for taking down second place. I mean,
Yeah.
We were splitting hairs, and like we talked about, and you even mentioned it, is, if Cantlay pulls that off, you probably take it down. But Tom Kim comes through, wins me, gets me a winner. Like I had a Tom Kim ticket, so shout out to Tom Kim for coming through. And the kid just looks unflappable out there. I mean, everybody kind of was exposed to him during the President's Cup, but I mean, even before then, he wins the Wyndham, and he had just played phenomenally, and he comes right back in, and it's like he doesn't even skip a beat.
Yeah, man. Second win before the age of 21. Last person to do that was Tiger. He's phenomenal, man. It's everything that I saw at the President's Cup really solidified for me how good of a player he is. He carried that team on his back. He fired him up, and even though they were huge underdogs, he I feel like he alone gave that team a chance to potentially win on Sunday. And I mean, we saw him win the Wyndham, which was, kind of sometimes it's fluky. We'll see some fluky wins here and there, but he backs it up. Second win in 3 starts. I mean, that's amazing. He goes, face to face with, Patrick Cantlay's top 5 golfer in the world. And Cantlay chokes on 18. He hits a perfect drive and seals up the tournament. I'm really impressed by his demeanor on the course, his play. And then he got his trophy, and now he's traveled to Japan for the ZOZO.
Yeah, he's fresh off the win. He finds himself in the 78-man no-cut field. You got to think probably him and Sungjae are the 2 hottest guys coming into this event that are in the field. But there's names, man. I mean, we've got Xander, Morikawa, Mito, Fleetwood, Cam Young for the first time since the President's Cup, and Victor Hovland for the first time in a long time. So this is a very, very stacked field. Like I mentioned, it is a no-cut event. And this is the third time that we will be at Nirishima Country Club in Chiba, Japan, just 50 miles west of Tokyo. This is a place, obviously, Hideki Matsuyama had a ton of success. He won here last year, took second, I think, to Tiger Woods in 2019, which would have been the 2020 rendition of this course. And, of course, because of COVID, this tournament was actually played in Sherwood Country Club, which is where Patrick Cantlay won it. But, this course, what we've come to know from it, like I said, third go-round, is it's short. It's 7,100 yards. It's a par 70. So there's, it's not a very long course. It's actually been routed. There's 2 different courses on the property, the King and the Queen courses. And so this takes advantage of both of those layouts. Famously, this course also, which I guess is a big thing in Japan, the double greens, because of the temperature changes in the area, can get very, very cold and very, very hot. And so the grass needs time to heal and prepare. So we have these double greens. The guys will actually be shooting at double greens on a number of holes, where one day they'll be shooting at one green and the next day they'll be shooting at the other. But I think what we do know is if you look at the leaderboards historically at this course, in the 2 times that we've seen it played, it is ball strikers. It is find the fairway. You do not want to be in the rough because of the large greens. Greens in regulation is at a higher clip. So if you're having to do things like chip onto greens, hit out of bunkers, you're probably going to find yourself losing pace. With all that being said, it's not like a total score fest. This isn't what we just saw where it's like 25, 26 under. You're probably going to see winning scores anywhere from like 15 to 19 under. So it does present some challenges. Obviously, like I said, ball striking, finding fairways, there's a premium there, but also distance. We found that the guys who can put the ball down these fairways and give themselves wedge shots in are going to have better opportunities for scoring. And so you've seen those names kind of float to the top of these leaderboards over time. But again, I don't know if there's anything that jumps out to you about this or anything that's memorable. The one thing I do remember from last year clearly was watching this thing finish up and watching Hideki hit that 3-wood on 18 from like 240 to like 3 feet to eagle the final hole. He didn't even need to. I think he ended up winning by like 4 or 5 strokes, but he hit the most beautiful cut 3-wood into that 18th hole, which was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, I have a pretty good memory of both of these, both of the times we've seen this event. Obviously, the first time I was pretty excited to see Tiger win, which was, it's always nice to see Tiger win at this age. And then last year, I had a pretty decent sized Hideki like ticket. I had him in one and done. He was like he was a staple in all my DFS lineups. So I had a pretty good profitable week last year, playing a lot of Hideki. And the thing I remember about last year was Cameron Tringali trying to steal it away from Hideki on Sunday. And people were just like, every time Tringali made a birdie, they're like, yeah, okay. And obviously the home crowd was very favored towards Hideki last year, but Hideki got the job done. This is a course he's played numerous times. It's obviously in his home country, so I'm excited. I think we're for swing season, man, I think we're doing a really good job so far. We've been all over the board. Obviously you had a winner last week, but last week, man, I don't want to go back to last week, but we were all over that board. We both had Neesmith. I had SH Kim.
Yep.
You had Tom Kim, obviously. And yeah, we were all over. Neesmith got second place. SH Kim, man, he cost me so much on Sunday. Like I had him in my showdown lineup for Sunday, and I was like really doing well. And then he hit his second shot on the 16th par 5 into the water, and I was like, oh my god! All I needed for him to do was to like birdie that hole, and I would have won a shit ton of money on Sunday. But overall, it was a really good DFS week last week for me. Didn't get across the line with Neesmith for the winner, but yeah, man, I think we're right there on top of things right now. Swing season, people are more concentrated on the NFL like we talk about every week, and I think it's a good chance for us people that are highly invested in golf to win money. And I'll be honest with you, I literally just opened up the pricing for the first time, and I did zero research today. I was busy all day, and then had other things going on, and I did not look at any pricing. I didn't listen to any other podcast today, so I'm ready, man. I'm looking fresh at this pricing, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk about this field.
Well, let's jump right into it. Right off the hop at the top of the board, we've got 4 guys above 10K: Xander, Decky, Colin Morikawa, and Sungjae Im. 4 players of Asian descent, 3 of Japanese descent, and of course our boy Sungjae, who's just playing phenomenally. We, like you mentioned, I think we had 7 or 8 guys inside the top 12 last week. Obviously, all of those guys were core DraftKings plays for us. But when you look at these kinds of fields where we have no cut events, everybody's getting through, the levels of ownership are completely different, right? Where you may try and fade a guy who's 15, 16% owned at lower price points. In this field, 15 or 16% owned is a lower ownership level. So it's important to understand, you've got to be different. You've got to find ways to make your lineups a little bit outside of the norm, because everybody's going to gravitate to the same people, and we've only got 70 guys to choose from instead of our usual, which is 144. So who do you like at the top of the board? And again, it's a Monday, so we don't really know how ownership is shaping up, but just curious, if you have any takes on any of the 4 guys here at the top.
Yeah, I do. Just looking at this, I actually have some, it is Monday. Like you said, we still got to wait for the ownership to mature a little bit, but I do have early ownership projections here. And GPP wise, it looks like Colin Morikawa is the play up here. It looks like everyone's going to be going to the other 3 guys, Xander, Hideki, Sungjae. But ownership wise, it looks like Colin Morikawa is getting squeezed between these guys. And why not Colin Morikawa? His history here is great. A 7th place finish, a 22nd place finish the year before that. He's coming in with pretty good form. Played pretty well at the President's Cup a couple weeks ago. I'm sure he basically finished up the President's Cup and then traveled over to Japan right after that, and has had like a week or so to get acclimated to the time change and stuff like that, playing practice rounds. I'll definitely go to Colin Morikawa here. He's going to be out of these 4 guys, he's going to be probably, it's going to be probably him and Hideki for me that are going to be the 2 guys that are going to be heavily owned here. just ownership wise, if he's going to be the one that's going to be lowest owned in this range, I think it's a good spot to go to in GPPs. If you're playing cash games out there, obviously most people are going to start their lineups with Xander or Hideki here. Can't deny Xander's history here either, a 28th and a 10th. But the main guy here, of course, is Hideki, a first place finish and a second place finish. That's just nothing to sneeze at. And even though he's not in the greatest form, even though he's lacking a little bit of form, I mean, he's back home. He's I'm sure he's with his family, his wife and his kid, and he's acclimated to this part of the world very much so, and he loves this golf course, obviously. So I mean, Hideki is going to be a staple in my cash game lineup. I can't not start my lineup with Hideki in the cash game. I'll go to him in GPPs, but I think I'll have a little bit more of Colin Morikawa.
Yeah, like you, it's hard for me to ever step away from Morikawa. If his ownership odds or if his ownership's low or if his odds are good, I'll end up playing him one way or the other just because he is a premier talent and it feels like he always gets squeezed, right? Like people are going to gravitate to the names that hit the ball farther, that score more. And Morikawa is just so steady. I love the call there. I like both guys that you do. And I think really it's just going to come down here at the top of the board to ownership construction and how people are going to be building lineups. We say it week in and week out. Try to be a little bit different. Find ways to make your lineups just a little bit outside of the norm to give yourself an edge, because that really is at the end of the day what ends up winning these tournaments. And again, we saw last week the chalk hit, right? Super hard. All the chalky guys made the cut. They all performed well. But at the end of the day, if you can find that slight edge on a guy, and it could be a couple of ownership points, that makes all the difference in the world. You mentioned it, the difference between Patrick Cantlay and Tom Kim. One wins the tournament, one comes in second. Patrick Cantlay is owned in 30 to 40% in most tournaments, and Tom Kim is somewhere in the high teens, and that really is the difference in taking down a tournament. All that being said, I'll have to see what happens with Xander. It's, I know he doesn't have the greatest course history here, but he did win in the Olympics in Japan. Yeah. He is of Japanese descent. So, it's one of those things where you can play. I think Sungjae is probably the one guy that I will fade here. I just feel like he's been grinding for so long. And I think what we saw on Sunday was him finally kind of lose some traction. I mean, he still ended up finishing inside the top 10. He still had a great week, but I just, I can't ignore the fact that he's been grinding. He hasn't been able to put together a win. And I think he may just need a break. So from that perspective, I'm building my own narrative, and I think I'll end up fading him at the top. I love Morikawa. I love the Hideki call. And, we'll kind of go from there. Dropping down into that next range, into the 9Ks, again, Tom Kim at the top of the 9Ks, I feel like we're getting a discount at 9,700. The guy's fresh off a win. He just is playing so well, and there's nothing in seeing him that makes me feel like he's losing ground or losing focus. He just looks so comfortable out there. Even when Cantlay was imploding on 18, and that was this extended period of time, he just was talking with his caddy Joe and just BSing and laughing and smiling and being a 20-year-old kid. So I'm going to have to wait and see where ownership comes in, but it's going to be really hard for me to stay away from Kim there. The other guy that I love here is Hovland. We haven't seen him in a while. I feel like people may forget about him. He had kind of a soft finish to the year, really didn't finish that strong. But again, for whatever reason, he hasn't won on American soil, and we're getting him internationally here. I love Tom Kim. The other two guys that I like here that I'll throw out because I kind of know or I should say, I think I know who you like. I like Fleetwood and I like Connors. Connors has great course history. He sets up perfectly, putting the ball in the fairway, greens and regulation, and then Fleetwood. So those would be the three guys for me, which would be Hovland, Fleetwood, and Connors. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I get somewhat of an ownership discount on those three.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, I mean, it's going to be an auto fade of Tom Kim this week. It's just like the triple whammy here for me. It's coming off of a win, having to immediately travel from Vegas to Japan, not having time to get acclimated to the new part of the world, and he's coming in as that. It looks like he's coming in as the highest owned in this range. So that's a triple whammy for me.
Yeah.
If he beats me this week, I mean, I'm just going to tip my cap to him and just shake his hand. If he beats me, he beats me. There's nothing else I can do about it. So I'm going to fade him. I'm also going to fade Sungjae at the top. I just don't like the whole traveling from Vegas to Japan is not easy, man. Like they probably got in today. Probably have like a couple days to get used to like the time
And they
difference.
do lose a full day traveling west to east.
Yeah, they lose a full day. So I don't think I can go there with Sungjae and Tom Kim this week. For me, I mean, Cam Young is always my guy. I've been playing him in DFS pretty much every week for a year now. I love him this week. I think this is a good course for him. I'm excited that he did not make the jump to live, because I would have been really, really upset if he did. He's here on the PGA Tour to stay. I don't think he's going anywhere. And I think it's a good course for him. I think this is a good setup for him. I also love. I think my favorite player here is Tommy Fleetwood. I mean, he has good history here. 7th place finish last year. Tommy Fleetwood is one of those guys that, for whatever reason, when he steps on American soil, he's not a good player. But in Asia, in European soil, he is a good player. He knows how to ball strike, and he knows how to play well overseas for some reason. He just can't get it done in America for whatever reason. So I will go to him. He's my favorite play in this range. He's coming in pretty low owned in this area. It looks like all the ownership's going to Tom Kim and Victor Hovland here. So I'll play the guys in the middle there with Cam Young and Tommy Fleetwood. And down below, I mean, it's looking like, on a Monday, it's looking like Corey Connors is coming in the lowest ownership here. I mean, I'm seeing like 7.5%. If that stays there, if he's under 10% at $9,000, I don't mind going to Corey Connors here. He finished 6th here 2 years ago. So I know his form isn't great. He hasn't been playing good golf recently, but at a course where he played well in the past, it could be a chance for him to get right. So if I'm going to sit here and rank my plays, it's going to be Fleetwood 1, Cam Young 2, and then Corey Connors 3.
Yeah, I think we're aligned there. The only difference between the two guys we like is Hovland and Young, and I feel like it's kind of a coin flip between those two guys, right? Like, you could go either direction. You can make an argument for both. The big advantage that Cam Young has is he is just dominant off the tee. His off the tee game and distance is he is the best guy in the field with a driver in his hand. So that will provide him with a massive advantage here. I wonder about him traveling internationally, not having done that before as a tour professional, but hey, these guys are big boys. They're pros. It's something that they have to deal with. But I love the Corey Connors play. I think that's the one that I'm most surprised at. This is a place that he played at, had success. And you think about like course fit. We talked about a little bit about those key stats. I mean, he ranks inside the top 5 in the model from a stat perspective. And again, he's got a 6th place finish back here in 2019, 2020 when Tiger Woods won it. So again, you've got some good things there. Obviously, the form, just missing the cut at the Fortinet when a lot of people were on him. I think that's hurting his ownership, which I absolutely love. I think it's a great buy low spot for Corey Connors. And I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. The only guy we didn't talk about was Terrell Hatton. And I think just because I haven't seen him play here before, and again, when I talk about the things that are important, he can get a little wild with the driver. I think he's probably the biggest fade for me here. I think I'm going to be completely away from Terrell Hatton.
Yeah, me too. I think he's one of those guys that he's kind of turning into like a boom bust kind of guy. Like, it's one of those situations where he only plays well at courses that he plays well at. Like, he doesn't play well at courses that he hates. And I think he finds a course that he hates, and he just gets so tilted by those courses that it affects his game. So it's a situation where he's never seen the course before. So is it a course that he likes, or is it a course that, he's comfortable at? We don't know. So I don't mind taking a risk on him if you think it's a course that suits him well and he could play well at, but I need to see him do it first before, he's just as likely to miss the cut as he is to win the tournament, I think, in my opinion. So he has definitely the biggest range of outcomes between all these $9,000 guys. So I would probably fade him in the situation.
Yep, completely agree. I think of him as a grinder, a guy that plays well at tough courses, a linksy guy, and this course just is really none of those. This is your typical parkland course. And for me, kind of like you took the stance with Tom Kim, is I'm going to fade him. If he burns me and wins, I tip the cap to Terrell Hatton and say, okay, I'll remember that for next time around. But this year, he's an easy fade for me. Dropping down into the next tier, into the 8Ks, arguably the guy who has the best form, Keegan Bradley. And when you talk about the kinds of places that he plays well, we talked a little bit about the course fit, a parkland course that demands accuracy off the tee, a ball striker. I mean, that's Keegan Bradley. There's no surprise he's got, a top 10 and a top 15 finish in the 2 times that he's played at this course. So I think Keegan could be a popular play at 8,900. A lot of other names here. Hoagie obviously has been playing great. Cam Davis, ball striker. Mav McNeely flashed last week. Mito Pereira finally back playing good golf. And then, of course, my boy, Sebastian Munoz, who played very, very well here a year ago. Who do you like in the 8Ks, Rick? And do you think because of the names in 10 and the 8K ranges that maybe this range goes a little underowned?
That's a tough question. I just don't, being a 70 whatever man field, I just don't feel anyone really goes underowned. Or like a part of the board gets underowned. I mean, I guess I could see it, but there's a lot of guys here. So I don't know, obviously most people are going to want to start their lineups with a Hideki at top, but if you feel comfortable, fading those top 4 guys, I could see going in this range. I see, ownership here in this range. It looks like, early on a Monday, it looks like everyone's flooding towards Tom Hoagie and Mito Pereira, 2 guys that played last week, traveling from, Vegas to Japan. Mito's never seen this course before. Tom Hoagie, had a 17th place finish last year. Little scary for me. If they're going to be the chalky guys here, I don't really think I could go to either one of those. Mito was in my main lineup last week. He gave me a chance to, ship some, GPPs, but I don't think I can go back to him if he's going to be highly owned, plus the, the travel from Vegas to Japan. So for me, I think I'm going to, right off the top, like you said, Keegan here, for some reason, he plays this course really well. A 7th and a 13th place finish the last 2 years, coming in off of a 5th place finish off his last event. I'm going to go to him. 8,900. I definitely like Keegan here. The other guy I like here is your boy, Sebastian Munoz, man. He played so well at the President's Cup a few weeks ago. And I think he's ready to get back into action. Did he play he played at
2022. Yeah. He finished top 5. He had a 4th place finish here in 2022.
Yeah, 4th place finish last year. I love him this week. He's coming in super low owned. And you know what? I'm going to go back to him. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to go back to him. I was going to say I was going to go back to Siwoo Kim, but I played him a lot last week. He kind of broke my heart on Sunday because he was playing really well going into Sunday, and then he just kind of shit the bed on Sunday. So, I mean, we're in Asia, and he has okay history here. Nothing great, an 18th and a 37th. I think for me, I don't think I can go back to him. I think I'd rather go to Keegan, who is coming in lower owned than Siwoo in this range. But I think everyone in this range is kind of overall a pivot off of Hoagie and Mito here. So the guys that I like in between, that are squeezed in between Hoagie and Mito, Cameron Davis, I like him. Even though he played last week, I don't mind playing some Cam Davis this week. He is one of those guys that's boom bust. And Maverick McNeely is interesting because the guy literally gained all of his strokes last week putting in short game
on the greens. Yeah.
And he played, he had a great finish. I think he finished top 5 or top 10 last week. I could go to him. I don't know. I think if I'm going to rank my plays here, it's probably going to be Keegan 1, Munoz 2, and then I'll just say Cam Davis 3. I have no interest in Davis Riley or Christian Bezaden, who's at the bottom, but I could definitely be talked into some Mag McNeely, even some Sahith Theegala. I don't mind him either, but I think for me, it's going to be Cam Davis in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I love Davis Riley, and I think what I need to do is we need to try and find out why Davis withdrew from the tournament last week. At the Shriners, he was supposed to tee it up. He decided to pull out. Maybe it was because he wanted to get over to Japan early and acclimate to his surroundings. We don't know. Does he have an injury? But I think that could be a spot where a lot of people are going to remember he did not participate last week. He was supposed to, and people are just going to automatically assume he's injured and is out. So I guess pay attention to what's happening with Davis Riley, because again, he is one of those guys like Cam Young. He's like the homeless man's Cam Young, where he is just a beast off of the tee. And when he gets that weapon working, he can be very, very good. And if you're getting him at depressed ownership and it was just, hey, I don't want to make the trip from Vegas to Tokyo on one day. Maybe we get a very well rested Davis Riley. I don't know that. Do your research. It's kind of buyer beware, but I love a lot of the same guys you do. Keegan is probably the guy that I like the best here in this range. I think he's probably going to be the chalkiest, but we'll see how things mature. And then even Stallings, like people forget, like Stallings ended the year phenomenally, and then his first tournament right out of the chute was the Sandersons, and he gets a top 15 finish. So all the ball striking metrics are there. So I like Stallings here as well too. I think he could be a really good pivot play, especially to your point, if you're getting Mito and Hoagie at like 25, 30% ownership. If you can get Stallings at half of that, that's a pretty good discount.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't have to convince me to play Scott.
I know you have a Stallings problem.
Yeah, I play him all the time. So yeah, I definitely. I actually just glanced over his name. I didn't even see him at 8,200. Yeah, I could definitely be talked into playing some Scott Stallings. I don't mind him this week, especially as you said, as a pivot off of a chalky Mito.
Yep. Dropping down into the 7Ks, tier 4 guys. But again, we've got some good names. This is a 78-man field. So a lot of guys that people have been picking, including myself the last couple of weeks in these early swing season events. We've got some good options down here. We're getting KH Lee and a number of the other guys who are part of that Korean contingency that met Tom Kim after his win on the 18th green. We've got Emiliano Grillo, who's playing phenomenally. Andrew Putnam, who, I mean, we haven't seen Putnam make a run like this in 5 or 6 years. He's playing really, really well. Kurt Kitayama, who was everybody's pick last week. He let everybody down. But again, he is a name that's floating to the top. Brendan Steele has phenomenal course history here. I think he took second to to Tiger, I believe, or maybe it was Hideki a year or two ago, but he has played well at this course. Matt Wallace also has a top 5 here, but again, buyer beware with Matt Wallace. It feels like he's doing that all around the greens and all on the greens. So, I guess where do you go? I mean, there are some solid options, and then there's, to your point earlier, there's some boom or bust options here. Taylor Moore is a name that's been very popular as of late. Neesmith, who everyone was on last week. Where do you go, and where do you think you might be able to get an ownership break?
I don't think there's going to be much ownership breaks here. I mean, yeah, there's a couple guys that are going to be super low owned, but it looks like as of right now, everyone from 7,000 to 7,900, it's pretty flat early on a Monday. No one looks like is coming over like 10, 11%. Everyone it looks like is in that like 5 to 12 to 13% range. So I think for this, if it stays like that, unless someone gains some steam later in the week, I think it's just pick the guys that you like and go with them. Can't believe I'm going to say this. This might be the first time I've ever said this on the show, but I think my favorite play here is going to be Mackenzie Hughes, 7,600, coming off of a win, playing good golf, 4th place finish here last year, has had a week to recover, celebrate, recoup from his win at the Sanderson Farms. So Mackenzie Hughes on a course where he has big greens, like you said, and he's such an incredible putter that. What do we say about Mackenzie Hughes? He's gonna, every tournament he's gonna make like 100-foot bomb at some point. And if these are double greens and big greens, he's gonna miss the green and have a long putt. I trust him to, get it in and 2 and maybe even sink a couple bombs there. So I like Mackenzie Hughes at 7,600. Yeah, I like, the guys that played last week, KH Lee, Matthew Neesmith, they were in my main lineup. I can't get away from them just because, they've been playing good golf, and I really liked them last week, and they played well last week. So I probably will go back to them. Hubbard, I liked last week also, but I'm going to kind of temper the ownership on guys that played last week. Like I said, it's kind of an ongoing theme. Aaron Rye played really well last week at 7,500. I don't mind him. Brendan Steele is the interesting one for me. He finished 4th here, he finished 2nd here last year to Hideki, but he's coming off of like 2 really badly missed cuts at the Fortinet and the Sanderson Farms, where he played, really bad golf. So really bad form. You're going to get probably super depressed ownership on here, but good course history. I guess we could maybe take a shot on him. I don't know, but. That's all I really see from the top of the 7,500 range. I think it's going to be Mac Hughes and the guys that I played, last KH Lee, Matthew Neesmith. Those are fine plays, I think. I don't really have any other takes from the above $7,500 range. Below 7,500, I know you said Matt Wallace had a 4th place finish here last year. I can't really get to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who do you like? I mean, Troy Merritt has pretty good history here, 28th and a 30th. Luke List had a 7th. Ugh, I can't play Luke List. He's terrible. Who do you like in the low 7s? Because I'm not seeing any real names that I really, really like. No one really is coming in with great form either. I don't really. I mean, Adam Schenk maybe he had a 12th place finish last week, and then 2 top 30 finishes here the last 2 years. So he's at least seen the course twice. But I don't really like anyone below 7,500.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned Steele. For me, Steele's going to come down to ownership because when you look at him from a statistical perspective, I mean, where he has died has been in and on the greens. He's 3rd and off the tee, 13th in driving distance, 10th in fairways hit, 3rd in approach, 4th in greens and regulation. From the key proximity ranges, he's inside the top 15. So from all the ball striking metrics, he's phenomenal. He is absolutely terrible. Like if he misses a green and has to chip, or you're asking him to sink 4 and 5 footers, he's god awful. So I guess if this is the kind of course where he, Cam Tringali, and Hideki Matsuyama can play well, maybe the putting surface is something that we can take out of the metrics and Brendan Steele shows up again. So again, if he comes in and he's the most heavily owned guy in this range, I'm out. But if I can get him at, depressed ownership odds, especially at a no cut event, I'll take some Brendan Steele. The other guy that I really like here is Sepp Straka. Straka played really well, lost in a playoff to Mac Hughes. Probably should have won that event. But I will have a good amount of Sepp Straka. And then it's really going to come down to construction for me. If I end up with a number of guys above or below 7,500, if I end up eating a lot of my, my cash and DraftKings up with higher price guys, then I'm going to have to play, the Sevensons and the Wyndham Clarks and the Alex Smalleys, just from like I said, a course fit perspective, just because I like what those guys do off the tee and ball striking. But I mean, I don't have anybody here that I'm like, man, this is my guy from this range.
Yeah, I don't either. Like who below 7,500 is the guy to go to?
I don't feel like if you're asking me that today, I feel like it's List and Steele. But again, if you get both of those guys at 15 to 20% ownership, like pass, go to Sevenson, go to Streelman. I mean, the guy that I absolutely will not play who killed me was Ricky Fowler last week. I will not go anywhere. He murdered more than half of my lineups last week, and that's my fault. I'm not a big Fowler guy. I don't play him a lot in my lineups, but I thought, I thought he had been trending. I can't go back there after he basically broke my heart and killed more than 50% of my lineups last week. So,
someone else that's of Asian descent, huh?
Ricky Fowler. He is. Yeah, he is as well. The other guy I guess I'll throw into the mix below is Taylor Moore. I know that we just saw him miss a cut, but again, ball striking, no cut event. Taylor Moore's a guy I think you can go back to, and somebody who was heavily owned the last couple of weeks, and now we're coming off a missed cut. It could be a good, buy low spot.
Yeah, I like Taylor Moore. Good buy low spot. He has that extra couple days after he missed a cut to travel to Japan and get acclimated and stuff like that. Steven Yeager. I've been playing a lot of Steven Yeager this season. He's been pretty good in these events, but I'm not really. I'm more of a Steven Yeager guy at Birdie Fests, and I don't think this is really a quote unquote birdie fest. I think it's more of a little bit of a challenging course. What was the winning score here last year? You said minus 15?
15. I think Decky won at like 15 or 19, something like that.
Yeah, I like in a situation like that. I think I like guys that like to grind it out a little bit more. Like we talked about, like Mackenzie Hughes is somebody that I would trust being able to grind it out. I like the Sepp Straka call at 7,900. I'll definitely play some Sepp Straka. But yeah, man, this is a really dead range for me below 7,500. I really don't like any of these guys. A lot of these guys are traveling over from Japan. A lot of these guys missed the cut last week. Taylor Moore, Wyndham Clark missed the cut last week. Maybe Streelman. Streelman played pretty good last week, but he played good for 2 rounds and then kind of faded on the weekend. So
fell apart on the weekend.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more deep dive research in this area. I guess Matt Wallace is 9th overall in your model. That's got to tell us something, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of that is really coming from the fact that he hasn't played here in a little while, but he does have a fourth place finish here. And actually, I take that back. When I look, he had a 28th finish at the Shriners. He had a 21st at the Fortinet. So I guess Matt Wallace is trending. Which is insane for me to say. Just looking at him statistically at how he's doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's birdie or better. He's inside the top 20. Driving distance, he's inside the top 30. He's strokes gained off the tee is inside the top 35. So he's kind of mid to better part of the field, I guess.
All right, let's go. Let's make a stand here. Matt Wallace. That's our play below.
All right. I mean, if we can get him at good ownership numbers, I'm with you, because
what is coming?
He was like an auto fade for me in my head, and then looking now at the stats, like Matt Wallace actually looks like he's been showing up.
That's why we do this show, right? That's why we look at the stats, and while we're doing the show, and we talk to each other and talk it out. Matt Wallace, that's our play below 7,500, boys.
That's right, 7,200. And the great thing is he can't miss the cut.
Yeah, he cannot miss the cut. That's true.
I guaranteed no miscut. He might withdraw, but he ain't gonna miss the cut.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next dumpster range.
Yeah, all right. Dropping down here into the dumpster, you've got a bunch of these JGTO, Japanese Golf Tour Organization players. I think there's like a dozen of them that are here. They're not necessarily to be fully ignored. I do believe one of the guys down in this range, and I'll grab his name here, did have a very good finish here last year. Yeah, the two guys. So Takumi Kanaya had a seventh place finish here last year. And then you've got Imahara. Shuga Imahara also finished top 20 here last year, along with Hiroshi Iwata. So we've got some guys that have played here and done really well. So just they're not auto fades. And I guess if you're going to grab a guy who is probably going to be excessively low owned, those guys, no one's going to play them. So again, everybody makes a cut, and there's an opportunity to steal 5-10% ownership on the field by playing a few of those guys. You just got to make sure you grab the right one.
Yeah. I couldn't pick any of those guys out of a lineup if you asked me, but we're not here to know what they look like. I just assume that playing in this part of the world, they're probably used to playing in this part of the world, so it's not something that's new to them. Takumi Kanaya, I know that name. He's a young guy that has been impressive on the Asian tour and stuff like that. So I like that 7th place finish last year, but I'm looking at his recent finishes and I see cut. So a lot of cuts there. So I don't know if I can go to that, but Sam Ryder had a 7th place finish here last year. I could see that. He's coming in off of a 28th last week. Don't mind Sam Ryder. Adam Schenk has a couple top 30 finishes here. Played pretty well last week. A top 15 finish finished last week. Looking at your model, he's 14th overall. He's obviously the best player in your model in this range. So I'm definitely going to go to some Adam Schenk. Looking like here, like we said early on a Monday, looking like the most owned guy in the $6,000 range at this moment in time is going to be Hayden Buckley. So if you're looking for a pivot off of somebody, it's going to be Hayden Buckley. We can go to your boy David Lipsky, who is of Asian descent, has played overseas a lot. So that's a good pivot off of Hayden Buckley there. Dylan Fratelli, got a really bad taste in my mouth from him last week. He had a really bad missed cut. He was in one of my main lineups. I did not like that last week. CT Pan, he got the bronze medal at the Olympics a couple years ago, right? So obviously he plays good in this part of the world. So for me, just the names that, like, just to recapitulate the names that I like: Sam Ryder, Adam Schenk, Lipsky, Pan, and that's it.
Yeah,
maybe a couple of Asian guys.
I can't throw any other names at you that you already didn't mention. I played Hostler last week, and he was basically made the cut and then fell apart on the weekend. And then, Cam Champ's the other one. Like, if you're looking for boom or bust, I like Champ from an outright betting perspective, not from a DraftKings perspective. Like, I like the 150, 200 to 1 on Champ to win. But, again, he is so up and down. And as of late, it's been way more down than up. So, again, that's one of those spots where it's like, hey, pick your poison. If you're going to go there, just kind of hold your nose and click the button. But other than that, like I said, the random Japanese guys that we hammered on, I don't really know. There's not a lot here, but you're going to have to find a few plays.
Yeah.
Because if you're building from the top down and going 10K, 10K, or 10K, 9K, you're going to have to grab a guy in the 6Ks. And I think you hit it on the head. Like, just stay away from Hayden Buckley because he's going to be the most heavily owned guy. And if you want to avoid that ownership bubble, again, when you start getting into guys that are just chalky below 7K, that is just a recipe for disaster. I do like Shank, but again, in a no-cut event, there's very little difference to me between Adam Shank and Adam Long and David Lipsky and CT Pan and Lee Hodges. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. So, just, I guess, like I said, figure out what your player profile is. If you're going to do off the tee stacks, guys with approach, those kinds of things. But I think you hit on all the names that I would at least consider playing. Sam Ryder is a guy that I do like.
Yeah, I would say usually the popular build in no-cut events are stars and scrubs because you're going to get 4 rounds out of your scrubs no matter what. That's always the popular build. It's tough for me to do stars and scrubs this week because I really don't like anyone in this range. I mean, I have a feeling like Adam Shank and Hayden Buckley, I think these guys are going to get really steamed up because of that kind of roster construction. So definitely the contrarian way to build your lineups this week is to fade all the 10K guys and play a balanced lineup. If you do that this week, you are going to be different. You can get chalky in some areas if you decide to do that. And just make sure a couple of those guys in your lineups are pivots, and you're going to have a different lineup this week. So, play around with your construction. Obviously, I wouldn't say completely fade stars and scrubs because we do like Morikawa, Hideki, Xander at the top. Those are guys that we're going to play. But if you are going to jam 2 of those guys in, you gotta figure out who all the people down here are not going to land on. And I feel like if people that are going to come down here are going to land on the Shanks, the Buckleys, the Sam Ryders. I think Sam Ryder is going to end up being a popular name this week for that roster construction build, just because of his history here, and he's coming in with decent form. So just be careful with that. If you can fade this range and play a balanced lineup, I think it'll be a little bit different. But I mean, those are the guys we like, and I don't really have any other takes from. I just saw Danny Lee at 6,200. I didn't even see his name. There's a name, 6,200 Danny Lee.
Yeah, I definitely will not be playing Danny Lee in DraftKings, but I will be placing a bet on Danny Lee. He is 400 to 1 currently. I'm all over that. Like, I love that.
When was the last time Danny Lee won?
That's a great question. I know, what was the one that Herbert won? Because him and Herbert were like in a rainstorm, like in Bermuda, and they were like the only 2 guys that were under par. And that was that was the last time that he contended. I think it was at Bermuda. It might have been Puerto Rico.
Bermuda. Yeah, Bermuda or Barracuda, one of those 2, I think.
Yeah, one of those just trash events like in the Caribbean. Like, it was just terrible. And it was like literally almost a hurricane. And him and Danny Lee, Herbert and Danny Lee were the only 2 guys that were under par.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't mind that. I haven't placed any bets. Obviously, I didn't look at anything, but I'm going to probably, I'll put my betting card out on Twitter and in the Discord. Once again, please join our Discord. We love talking golf all weekend. Link is in the description. Please join our Discord, and you'll get our plays, and you'll see how we're doing. And obviously, if you are into football, we have football in there too. So join the Discord, and I'll put my bets out on there. I don't mind that. Danny Lee 400 to 1. That's a good number in this field.
Yeah, no, the thing is it's a pretty good field, but it is really top heavy. Just looking at the odds, just because you mentioned it, I'll throw out the book that I use here. Xander's 8 to 1, Sungjae's 10 to 1, Decky's 12 to 1. You really start getting into the 20s until Hatton. Victor Hovland, I locked him in at 24 early. He's down to 18. Cam Young's 14. I like Fleetwood at 28. That's not a bad number. Yeah, I like Connors at 28. That seems like a pretty good number. You can get Mito at 33. So, there's some decent stuff in the 20s and 30s. If you want to go way, way down the board, guys that are plus 100, Luke List at 100. Our boy Matt Wallace, we just decided we're both in on Matt Wallace for DraftKings. He's at 100 to 1. Let's see who else of note is least. Adam Shank at $125 to 1. Cam Champ at 135. So again, there's some pretty good numbers out there. Danny, I like
CT Pan at 150. I like that number.
That's not a bad number. CT Pan Ryder at 200.
Yeah.
Danny Lee at 400 to 1. That just
Nice.
man, that's a big number. That's a big number.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm just looking at the board myself. I do like I like Fleetwood at 28. That's a good number. I like Cam Davis at 40. I always like Cam Davis in no cut.
Same here.
That's a
great number.
Yeah, great number. I think I'll definitely have Fleetwood and Cam Davis on my card. I'll probably have Munoz on my card as well. And then I mean the guys that we talked about at the bottom, Wallace. Yeah, I don't see any different than anything what you just said. So we'll put our betting cards out on social media later this week.
Yep. So remember, like Rick said, tons of content out there coming through the Nickel City Mafia channel. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter. Our handles are here. Join the Discord. Sign up. Continue the conversation. Great way to throw out showdown lineups. Continue that conversation. And Rick, again, no fantasy football this week. Chris is still on his honeymoon. Congratulations to Chris.
Yeah.
And the big wedding. Congratulations to your Ravens, who pulled off a close one on Sunday night.
Yeah, it was exciting. I had a nice little wager on them. They couldn't get to the -3, but I'll take the win. I'm happy with the win. We got a tough team win out of the way, and not gonna lie, man. I know there's not many Ravens fans that listen to us here, but the rest of their schedule is pretty easy. I think I was looking at it and I was talking to some of my Ravens buddies. I think they might be underdogs in at most 2 games the rest of the season. So got a chance to make a run. Just stay healthy, don't make dumb mistakes, and they got a chance to win this division and lock up a good playoff spot. And who knows? We might play the Bills in the playoffs and get some revenge on them. We never know.
Yeah, big Bills matchup this week with the Bills and the Chiefs. Actually, not this week, but the following week. So interesting to see what happens there.
This week. It's this week.
That's right, because they just played tonight against the Raiders. So
It's Sunday. I mentioned it in Discord earlier today. I really love the Bills in that matchup. -1 at Kansas City. Nice revenge spot for the playoff loss last year. I really like what the Bills are doing on offense, and I think it's a good spot for them for us to bet the Bills.
Yeah, you look at the Bills historically, they're +2, I think, going into that game after the Chiefs won tonight. Chiefs didn't cover. Chiefs historically have not done well against the spread. I like the Bills -2 in that game a lot. That'll probably be on a couple different parlays for me this week going into that matchup. But hey, this is the golf show. I guess that means it's time to go. We're talking football. We need to end it. I think that's on a good note. But Rick, thanks again, man.
Of course.
Glad you didn't get in a brawl in your softball game before the show.
This close
Although
to getting
it would
in
have
a
been
brawl.
for a great story. It
would have been
right in the face. That would have been awesome.
It was a bunch of 40-year-old dudes getting too hyped up about softball, but we're this close to getting in a brawl. But cooler heads prevailed, and we ended up winning the game. So it was a fun night.
Yeah, that bums me out a little bit. I wanted to hear my neighbor Chris punch this dude in the face for calling him a douchebag when he tagged him out at second base. That's what I wanted to hear. But that's okay. We live and learn.
All right, sounds good. All right, we'll be back with football next week. I turn the big 37 years old next week, so I'm excited to get a year older.
Happy birthday, Rick.
Yeah, my next Tuesday is my birthday, and we'll be back at it. Let's get some money in ZOZO this week.
Absolutely. I'll be in Denver the rest of the week. I'll be meeting our boy Dave Woods. We'll take some pictures from the course. He can show me his, $1,000 he won for taking down the DraftKings tournament. But thanks. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Mike. And appreciate all you guys out there. Best of luck, and we will see you next week.
Let's go.